Hello, so I just wanted to give a quick update on what I've been reading. So I picked up Eric, which is the next, I think it's book 9, if you're reading chronologically, which I am, in the Discworld novels. This is the 4th Rincewind book, 9th Discworld book. And it's fine. The beginning of the book is actually really good. So you have a 14-year-old who's trying to summon a demon to accomplish he wants 3 wishes granted. And unfortunately, he ends up with Rincewind in his summoning circle instead. And he's convinced that Rincewind is lying about his identity. So no matter what Rincewind tells him about, like, hey, I can't grant your wishes. I don't have the power you're looking for. I'm not who you're looking for. He's just like, demons always lie. You're a liar. And Rincewind is like, okay, then I am who you're looking for. He's like, haha, gotcha. You are. You admitted it. It's like, nonsense. But then after that initial scene that was really very enjoyable, after that initial scene, it just kind of, I don't know, there just wasn't a lot interesting going on. It wasn't super funny and it didn't do much for me. I'm a little bit past the halfway point and we're now into granting these 3 wishes, which it's picked up a lot. It's a lot more interesting now. I can tell at this point that I'm still not in, the nitty gritty of what makes Discworld great. For context, I started with Guards in the City Watch and I read the first 3 City Watch and then I decided to pause that and go and start reading chronological, and I think I'm starting to feel the fatigue of reading books that are good. They're enjoyable. I've liked every single one of these, but I started with what was so great. I'm like, I'm ready to get back to what's so great. But anyway, I am enjoying myself. Rincewind books are not my favorite, but I do really, I still like them. I still have a good time. So that's where I am right now with Eric. I'm having a good time. I'm not blown away. I don't have a lot to talk about with it. I don't have quotes to spit at you because they're so grand. I'm just, I'm enjoying myself. It does seem like this one is going to be leaning on Pratchett's version, Discworld's version of history. So I'm excited to do a little bit more of that and see what Pratchett does with where we seem to be going. But this is a very short Discworld book. This might be the shortest one I've read so far. I'm reading digitally now. I'm trying to read digitally. Side tangent. I'm trying to read digitally more because my library has an amazing ebook selection. Most books that I read, the library has on ebook and has readily available, like with hardly any wait time. And I just enjoy physical reading so much. I love having the book in my hands and turning the pages. So I buy almost everything that I read secondhand, but I still buy everything that I read, and it's more expensive that way than getting it from the library. So I'm trying to lean on the library more and just, spend less when I don't need, I have access to the book. I don't need to have it on, my shelves are full. There's not room on them. Why am I still buying things and then just making stacks on my floor? Anyway, I'm reading it digitally, which means that I don't know the exact page count, but this seems like I seem to be getting through it really quickly. It seems like this is on the shorter end for a Discworld book, which Discworld is always short. It's also a little bit frustrating for me because I've been collecting the books. I'm reading Discworld. I have all my Discworld books right there. I'm sitting across from the shelves that I usually film in front of. All my Discworld books are right there. I have them all lined up. And all my Dresden books are right there. I have them all lined up. And this week I'm reading another Discworld book and another Dresden book, but I'm just not going to add to my series anymore physically. I'm trying to get over it. Calm down. I will still be buying books physically. I'm just trying to hold back a little bit, and if I can get it from the library, prefer the library. They have a good physical collection as well, but nothing Discworld or Dresden in their physical collection, so we're doing digital this week. Anyway, that's my first check-in for Eric. I don't have a lot to say, so apparently I'm just talking about book collecting now and trying to break habits. Welcome to the vlog. Okay, I have finished Eric, and the second half I enjoyed much more. So the second half we follow the two trying to complete these wishes. Some take us to the Discworld version of the Aztecs, some take us to Troy. We end up being in a wooden horse that's being left outside of a certain city. None of it is actually our history, but it's all very clearly just our history slightly altered. And there's a lot of really funny tongue-in-cheek that comes with it. Like, for instance, one of Eric's wishes is to meet the most gorgeous woman that has ever lived, and so they follow the legend of the most beautiful woman that has ever lived, and that brings us to this point in history. But it turns out that she already has like 10 kids and she doesn't look exactly how the legends portray her. And it's so funny because there's a line that Rincewind says that's something along the lines of, legends aren't trying to be accurate, they're just trying to build legends. You can't exactly trust them and what they say, which I always love a good slight nod to the reality that history isn't 100%. The stories we get aren't entirely reliable all the time. There's some embellishments, there's some one-sided stories told. In fact, there was another line that said, if you ask the villagers about this glorious war, they might have something else to say, but nobody asks them when accounting for history. I loved that line too. Anyway, I did end up enjoying the second half of this a lot more than the first half. It still is one of the weaker Discworld books for me, but it was a good time. So by the end, I was smiling and laughing at quite a few things in the second half, and I had a good time with it. I'm looking forward to getting into the good Discworld books again, but Eric was a good time, just like many of the other early Discworld books. I'm halfway through the next Dresden book, Proven Guilty. This one, we're following a lot of the larger scale things that have begun in previous books. Dresden's new role that he's playing in the wider scheme, the relationship that he has with another character who was very active in the last book. Murphy is back, and other certain larger scale things that I can't really go into are happening, and those things are really interesting. The smaller scale plot for this particular book is kind of like Eric, where I'm just like, okay, this is interesting, but I don't have that much to say about it. Usually a Dresden book, I have my negatives, I have my cons, but I always have something that I'm gushing about. And in this book, I have my negatives, I have my cons, but I don't actually have anything to gush about. I'm enjoying myself. I mean, the plot is good. Harry's best friend, his daughter is in trouble, so she's called Harry to help her and her boyfriend at this horror film convention that they're working on. So a lot of mentions of like B-film horror movies, and probably some bigger names as well, and also, a killer. So it's kind of like a slasher horror film type book, which feels a little bit cheesy, but the kind of settings that you probably expect from Dresden. Some other things that you expect from Dresden books are present as well, just unfortunately depicted at teens this time. So like there's a certain way that women tend to be described in Dresden books, and it's something that I have come to accept is present for these books. But when there's a bunch of teens around and the same kind of descriptions are being leveled at them, I really don't appreciate that. But some of my favorite characters are present in this book, and there's a promise that possibly more of them are going to possibly crop up. Plenty of action, plenty of Harry putting himself in the worst positions to try to help everyone, plenty of Harry being stupid because he just you're trying, man. Not every decision you make is the right one, but you try with all your heart in everything you do. Mouse is getting some really great scenes in this book, and Mouse got some great scenes in you don't need to know. Got some great scenes in the last book as well, but some really, really good stuff in this book too. So yeah, I'm enjoying a lot about it. Disliking some things too, but enjoying a lot about it. But I don't have anything to gush about just yet in this book. Lots of small things are happening, lots of little things. So maybe you might consider this a bridge book, because there's a lot of things that are kind of being built up or getting into place but the small scale plot just isn't doing much for me. So I don't know. I really hope I end up liking it in the end, because I was kind of middle of the road about Eric. Enjoyed it in the end, but you know, nothing to gush about. And now we're doing a Dresden book. I feel middle of the road. I'm enjoying it, but we'll see. On to the next clip. Hello, new day, same toque. I basically live in this thing in the winter time. I finished Grave Peril. Is that what I'm reading? Yeah. When I don't have the book in my hands, it's easy to forget what it's called. I finished book 8 in the Dresden Files, and I ended up enjoying it so much. The second half of this was really good. Oh my goodness. Okay, so there's a specific friend of Harry's that did not play a big role in this book, but his family did. And this friend and his wife have got to be some of my favorite characters in the series at this point. Their devotion and loyalty and just like steadfastness, reliability, they're rocks in the series, in Harry's life, in their family's life. They make mistakes, especially the one makes mistakes, but it's out of love. It's out of that steadfastness and that desire to protect those that they love that the mistakes come about. And we got so much from a particular character that I have grown to love, that I never even cared about in the early books. When I first was introduced to this character, I'll just say her name, it's fine, Charity. I didn't care, but in this book we got to know a little bit more about her past and her background, a little bit more about what she does when, you know, she and Harry aren't close, they don't know each other, so getting to know a little bit more about what her life looks like other than, you know, just being a wife and mother. We get to see a little bit more background, not that being a wife and mother isn't enough, but you know what I mean. Beyond what we see on the surface, we see how she's so cool. She's so cool and flawed. And we get to see those flaws on display as well. But that's one thing that the series does really well, is that it just displays people's flaws. It makes the characters so human, and it just puts them out there, and the characters have to learn to deal with it, to overcome it, to make allowances for each other, and, you know, work through life in their humanness. And I just love that so much. Yeah, the second half of this book, I mean Charity was the star. The second half of this book, I adore her, and I loved the role that she played, but also there were some really, really intense moments, some pretty big twists that happened with characters and with what their fate might be, and like consequences for getting tangled up in some stuff that's a lot bigger than them. Some more scenes that make you go like that, but for the most part, I loved it. I loved it, and I'm really excited for where it seems to be going. I mean, I have no idea where it's going. Each book is its own new surprise, but certain things that clearly have a direction I'm pretty pumped about. I think it could potentially be awesome, could potentially be a catastrophe, but could potentially be awesome. So I'm really, really excited about that too. You know, wider world things. This is a book that I reckon is probably better on reread because there's a lot of little things. It feels almost a little bit sporadic at times, where like there's so many small things happening that there are times that I'm like, where's the focus? But it did have a focus. It was just less than I'm used to with these particular books, but I reckon on reread, this is a book that I could probably appreciate more because of the small details. We'll never know unless I reread the series. We'll see. But yeah, I ended up really, really enjoying this book despite certain scenes. 2 scenes in particular that I was like, why though? But we'll talk about it more in the spoiler. I mean, I do think I think I have some speculation as to what Butcher was going for, and we can discuss it in the review, but there's so much to discuss. So there will not be a spoiler review for this book this Saturday because I'm chatting with Tori about her book, The Bloodstones. This Saturday, we're going to do a live stream. Hang out with us if you want to. It'll be spoiler free. My friend Tori wrote a book and I love her, and you should come for the live stream and spoiler free hang out and learn a little bit about her book and her inspiration and all that. And then next Saturday, we will talk about Proven Guilty? Yeah, that sounds right. Book 8 of the Dresden Files. I know this is really vague, but you know, I'm 8 books into a series and it's a very, it's doing a lot. So that's what you get. Amazing character moments, great action, really great character development, some ick, a lot of greatness. Not one of my tops. Maybe I'll put I tier ranked every book that I read in 2023, and all the Dresden books got tier ranked in that. So maybe I'll make a separate tier list specifically for Dresden books and just keep you up to date on how I feel about the books as I go. Does that sound fun for you? Well, I've done it. I mean, I haven't, but editing me has. So that's where I put Proven Guilty among the rest. Really solid, not one of the peak books, but I mean, a good book, a really good book. Like, I had a great time with this. Lots of things to discuss. So I'll record that review this week. That way it's all fresh on my mind and I'll just sit on it until next Saturday and we can talk about it more there. I'm very excited to talk to you about it. I really liked this book a lot. I almost didn't expect to. After the first half, I was like, oh man, this is going to be one of the lower ones. Nope, it was great. I loved it. Anyway, I read another Dresden and another Discworld. Apparently I pair those up now. So if you're a Dresden or Discworld fan, chat with me, talk to me about these books. Eric was still really good, and Proven Guilty ended up like really surprising me with how much I enjoyed it. I hope you had a good week. I hope you enjoyed what you read. I will see you on Saturday. Bye.